Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our Ladies Bible Study. Um, if you're with us, we hope that you join in and comment. And hey, Jennifer, if you watch us later, then you can just comment, hashtag replay, and still comment and join in. And you'll know that we're live if you see the little red dot thing over my head. So we're doing Proverbs 29. So we're going to start with Proverbs 29. I'll give it just a minute to get everybody in here that might be joining us. So it's warm here. I don't know where you're watching from, but we're in South Carolina, so it still feels like summertime. And yeah, we're waiting for fall, but still. Okay, I just got to look for my technical team. Oh, Proverbs 29. I thought maybe I wasn't showing up. All right, so Proverbs 29. So give everybody just a second to get there and to get on. And if you are following the website, Church Direct, or the Facebook page, you can see that the ministry is growing. There are all kinds of resources being added. So if you haven't checked it out lately, check it out. But anyway, so we're going to start, and y'all, I asked for your prayers today. But anyway, I'm going to start with verse 29. It says, "He that being often reproved hardeneth his neck shall suddenly be destroyed, and that without remedy." You know, God is merciful. We talk about that a lot here, and that's the one thing that I just say all the time about God is how merciful He is to me, because I am so undeserving of His mercy. But you know, hey Sherry, there would have been a time if I hadn't hearkened to His voice that it would have been enough. And I think that can mean someone, you know, who God is dealing with about salvation. And I also can think even when we're saved, we get to a place where we're not where we need to be. And I mean, if you're saved, you're saved. But I think we can get to a point where, you know, enough is enough. He's dealt with us. He's shown mercy. And you know, we might get into a place where He has to get our attention that we don't want to be in. So understand that He is a merciful God, but He's also a just God. And, you know, not to compare, because we can't, you know, our parents and us as parents were, you know, we're not, of course, God, but just kind of to put it in perspective, we all knew that moment that we had done something that tipped our parent over into the, we better get out of the way. We all have that child who knew how to do that to us as parents. So understand that God is merciful, but there is a time that can be stopped if you don't listen to what He's trying to tell you. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. And when I think of people in authority, I think about this, I think of our rulers. And never before do I think this says more to us in the time that we're living here in America than right now. We have people that, you know, I mean, for a long time we've had people that in authority that said that it was okay to kill babies, but that is becoming more broad, where, you know, pretty soon it's going to be okay to kill live children. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that failed abortions, now you do have the option to let that child.
If they abort a live baby, they just let it lay there, so to speak, to die.
Y'all, I mean, we're living in an evil time, and it is more important than ever that we pray, and then we walk out those prayers by voting about who goes in authority over us. Not that I think that anybody that I know of that in any major elections coming up that I would say that I have spiritual confidence in necessarily, but there are certain people that vote that support certain ideas that are ungodly. And as a Christian, when you go to the voting booth, you got to keep that in mind. You got to remember, you know, this is not about anything except putting the people that are going to support the most godly things in office. Because if not, when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. Whoso loveth wisdom rejoiceth his father, but he that keepeth company with harlots spendeth his substance. We've all talked about, we've all had moments when we're foolish with our money, but I mean, when you are constantly just living a lifestyle you don't need to be living, you're constantly being foolish with that money. And it says, whosoever loveth wisdom rejoiceth his father. Well, I don't know if maybe this is talking about people that are foolish and not living the way they should be living, if they're spending their inheritance or what. But we do know that godly children bring joy to their parents. I knew a family about 10 years ago. The father had worked very hard, probably always worked 2 jobs. He passed away, and he had left specific instructions on what little bit of money that he had worked, how he wanted it to be used. And the children began to fight. They took advantage of the mother and that kind of thing. But what broke my heart is they weren't honoring their father. They didn't honor what he wanted. So that kind of made me think of that verse. But anyway, don't waste what you have. Don't waste what's given to you. Be wise with it. The king by judgment established the land, but he that receiveth gifts overthroweth it. This is kind of going back to those in authority. I mean, if I'm your leader and I'm going to be able to be bribed. I mean, I'm not doing anything that's good. You give me gifts or give me this or do this for me so that I'll do what you want. That's not what we should be doing. Well, if you're in authority, whether it be of your home on up, you need to not be influenced by that kind of thing. You need to do what's right. A man that flattereth his neighbor spreadeth a net for his feet. And that kind of goes along the same thing, That's manipulation, to flatter someone to get what you want out of them. In the transgression of an evil man there is snare, but the righteous doth sing and rejoice. The righteous considereth the cause of the poor, but the wicked regardeth not to know. And especially in the Bible, but especially a lot in Proverbs, it talks about, not stopping up your heart to the poor. Scornful man bring a city into a snare, but wise man turneth away wrath. Again, you're not just influencing it's not just your life, you're influencing other people. And if what you're bringing into the environment around you. And so you need to watch what you're doing, but you also need to watch who you're doing it with, who you spend your time with, who you support being in authority over you, and that kind of thing. Anybody have anything want to add so far? If a wise man contendeth with a foolish man, whether he rage or laugh, there is no rest. And again, there is no rest in not being godly. Wise is considered godly. Foolish is not godly. And there is no rest when you're not following God. You borrow in trouble a lot of times. You worry about things you don't have to worry about because you don't have that peace. Hey Sherry, I think I greeted you already. I'm sorry. A fool uttereth. I'm sorry. The bloodthirsty hate the upright, but the just seek his soul. Have you ever known someone who just, without any reason that you could think of, just could not stand you? I mean, I know not all people click. Not all people are going to like each other, but I'm talking about just could not stand you. And I've had someone talk to me. I think it might have been my daughter, about someone one time that she barely knew this person. This person had no reason. I mean, she might not have liked her because maybe their personalities didn't click, but she had no reason to just despise her. But she seemed to just really, really hate her. And what I told her was, honey, pray for her, because what you're seeing is the darkness hating the light. And the darkness does hate the light. So, a fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keepeth it in until afterwards. If I could learn to control my mouth, my life would be so much better. And, we don't need to be just saying everything that, if it's not building someone up or glorifying God, don't say it. That's my opinion. And I mean, I know that people don't live that way. I don't live that way, but that's what we should be striving for. If it doesn't glorify God or build someone up, just there's no need to say it. If a ruler hearken to lies, all his servants are wicked. The poor and the deceitful men meet together, the Lord lightening both their eyes. The poor and the deceitful men meet together. Wherever you are, God knows your heart. God knows what's going on. And God knows what you need. The king that faithfully judgeth the poor, his throne shall be established forever. And I just think that means, again, we were talking about how, especially in Proverbs, it talks a lot about not. I hope you're all back from the bathroom break. Just kidding. Sorry. When we meet to have our Bible study, it's kind of out in the country, and so sometimes the internet's a little faulty. And so, hey, Jennifer, for coming back. So I apologize for that. Let's see. We were talking about verse 14. The king that faithfully judgeth the poor, his throne shall be established forever. We were talking about how, especially in Proverbs, God talks a lot about not shutting up your heart to being compassionate to the poor. And then, and also in Proverbs, but even in this one, we talked about how important that the people in authority are over you, that they're doing the right thing. So, when you have someone in authority over you, again, whether it be a parent, on up to your king or your president who is godly and making godly choices and has compassion for the poor, I think that the whole land is blessed. And I think that is just a huge blessing. The rod and the reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself bringeth his mother to shame. And we know that. I mean, we know that when we don't give our children guidance and correction, what happens, and when we see a whole society of that anymore, because it's hard. And I'm a divorced parent. There were times where it was hard because I felt guilty about certain things, but whatever. I mean, don't spoil your kids. There's nothing at the end of that road that's good for them or for you or for God's work or for the community for which they live or anything. When the wicked are multiplied, transgression increaseth, but the righteous shall see their fall. Correct thy son, and he shall give thee rest. Yea, he shall give delight unto thy soul. And we talked about that just a few minutes ago. Where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law, happy is he. And that's kind of pretty self-explanatory. I mean, when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, when you're doing the things that God has set forth for you to do, when you're following him, that's when you have peace. A servant will not be corrected by words, for though he understand, he will not answer. Seest thou a man that is hasty in his words? There is more hope of a fool than of him. And we've talked about that just a few minutes ago in one of the other verses. I mean, if you can learn to control this,
That's scary to me.
There's a lot. And there have been times where I have just ran off at the mouth and later realized the situation wasn't what I thought. Or even maybe it was what I thought, but I just was convicted because it was none of my business to be concerned in it. So, he that delicately bringeth up his servant from a child shall have him become his son at the length. I just think what that's saying is when you treat people the way that they need to be treated. Yes, sometimes people need to have guidance, but when it's done in the right and loving way, the result will be something that's a blessing to you. An angry man stirreth up strife, and a furious man aboundeth in transgression. Don't be angry. I mean, if there's something in your heart that's troubling you, then pray it out. Because when you're carrying that, you're just going to keep things stirred up. And, I know that sometimes we don't get over things overnight. I mean, sometimes things are so deep that we don't just say, okay, and pray. And it's a process. We have to keep praying and keep going back to the Lord. But if you're walking through something that's taking you some time and you know you're not where you need to be yet, then be aware of that and guard yourself in the situation that might bring it up again, if that makes sense. A man's pride shall bring him low, but honor shall uphold the humble in spirit. And we talk about that here. I think we mentioned it last week. And I think pride is our biggest problem. And that is, that is thinking that we are above anybody, because who do we think we're above anybody? Whoso is partner with a thief hateth his own soul. He heareth correctly and bewaileth it not. And I think that's just saying if you've gotten entwined with something you shouldn't, then you need to, or somebody you shouldn't, then you need to bear it out and make things right. The fear of man bringeth a snare, but whosoever putteth his trust in the Lord shall be safe. And there's another verse this makes me think of. I can't think of it, but it's kind of like it's saying, if you haven't done anything wrong, what have you got to fear? Trust in the Lord, follow the Lord, and then you have that confidence that you need to have. Many seek the rule of his favor, but every man's judgment cometh from the Lord. And we're all human. We've all been and had moments where whoever has shown us favor and we've liked that, but all that matters is what God thinks. Is that who we're pleasing? An unjust man is an abomination to the just, and he that is upright in the way is an abomination to the wicked. So, if you are not a just person, then you're being a stumbling block to the people around you. But if you are a just person or a godly person, then you're bringing up the people around you. So, and we talk about that a lot here too, that it's not just about you, but about the influence you have on others. Any of you guys want to add anything? So this has kind of been brief. When I was reading this morning, and when I felt like this was where I was supposed to go, there was so much that I was getting out of this. And then I'll be honest, I got here and I just struggled really, really bad. I have times like that where I struggle when I do this, but today's probably been one of the worst times. So whatever it is that I might have let in, I apologize, but I hope you still got something out of it.
A random thought.
What's that?
Verse 21. He that delicately bringeth up his servant from a child shall he have him become his son at least. Like, when I first read it, I thought one thing, and then when I read it again, I thought a second thing. Okay, there's a difference between a servant and a son, right? Servant, somebody who does for you, for lack of a better, Son is,
Yeah.
So so it almost, at first, when I first read it, I thought it was saying that if you basically, you pamper, and you cater and coddle and bend, to someone particularly, then they're going to have that expectation. In other words, your expectations are going to get higher and higher. They're going to expect more.
Right.
But then when I read it again, I was like, well, maybe it's not saying that. Maybe it's saying that if you delicately bring them up, so if you teach them and you nurture them and you provide them the right information regarding the Bible and Jesus, and that, and I'm kind of losing where I'm going with this. But in other words, it'll be the same, but positive, whereas the first one was more negative and the second view was more positive. Like, in other words, if you do it, then someone who was your servant would now be at the level of your son. In other words, the relationship would change.
So is that
develop? So I don't know whether if that is more of a negative saying you don't do this because their expectations are going to be higher, and they're going to, or if it's saying the opposite, which is if you do it, then that changes the relationship to a more.
And is that a picture of God with us?
Right. So that's, that maybe one, if we look at it from the first angle, if he just does everything we want and everything we ask and, everything that we think.
Right.
Then we're just going to have those greater, in other words,
those expectations, it's not going to have as much meaning when all of a sudden he heals us from
Right.
cancer or something. Whereas or the opposite, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
Well, I see delicate as a positive word, but I could be wrong.
See, now I saw it in a positive, but I see what you're saying. I took it as, when you treat people
Delicately, with kindness.
with kindness
with-
and love, you develop a real relationship with them.
right.
But what you're saying,
In other words, if you
I can see it.
pamper the
Yeah, I can
servant,
see it that way
he's
too
going to
now.
have
That
the
you,
expectations of a son. all of
yeah,
a sudden.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
So what you're saying makes sense as
So
well.
I don't know.
But I think,
could be.
well, I was going to say, I think because you're right. I mean, if you treat people, I mean, and that's one of the things we were talking about. You have to be firm with people, whether that you're an authority over, whether it be a child, whatever. So when you don't, people can run over you, and so that could be, that's true. So it could be that way.
Well,
But also, when you treat people well, but within the right boundaries, you develop real relationships with them. So it could actually go either
because
way.
if you look at it from say there's somebody in your life who is very worldly, believes in things that are against what the Bible says, but you've known them for so long, so in other words, it's almost like you just never address those things. You never say, hey, blah, 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 I disagree with this. Then when that moment comes and you're trying to witness to them all of a sudden,
Mhm.
that expectation's not there because you've not shown it.
Right.
So I just think it can be both ways. I don't really know if I'm
No,
explaining it
you are, and I hadn't thought of it the first way you said it, but I mean that makes sense too. That makes sense too. A long time ago was in a ladies' Bible study, and sometimes we struggle. I mean, sometimes, we struggle to pray, we struggle to get in the Word. Sometimes, it's a struggle. We have things that distract us, and different things going on. And so one thing that I learned in this Bible study a long time ago is what my takeaway from that was, whenever I'm having a struggle, whenever it's hard for me to get into serious Bible reading for whatever reason, I'm having one of those times, I will read whatever that proverb is for the day, because proverbs are always easy to understand. It's always maybe it's not easy for me to always explain, because I did seem to struggle in trying to explain today, but they're always easy to understand. So just, if nothing else you take away from today, take that away. Whenever you have that time, because you will, we all do. Proverbs are easy. You could read that proverb, that chapter that matches the day. In other words, like today is the 31st, you would read the 31st proverb chapter. While I'm on that, someone also told me many years ago that the Gospel of John was a very easy to understand and very good book for a new Christian to read. So that's also a go-to whenever you're, even if you're not a new Christian, whenever you're just having that time that you're just kind of struggling, but you know that you're going to struggle more if you don't stay in the Word, but you're not spiritually or emotionally or mentally equipped to get into a lot of depth. And like I said, I think everybody has those times. That's just kind of a couple of hints for you where you can get things that are easy to read but still of substance, so you don't get into a further place of, where you don't need to be spiritually. Wouldn't suggest Revelations until you're feeling spiritually strong. Just saying. Anybody else want to add, or anybody out there have a comment? Today would have been a very good one to read, especially for a ladies' Bible study, because it is Proverbs 31 woman. I didn't feel like I could tackle that one today. So, all right. Well, if no one else has anything to say, then we're going to sign off, and we appreciate you joining us.